Hi everyone, it's been a little while since I dragged my husband onto the channel, so I thought it was about time, so he's back here today. As some of you probably know, I am generally responsible for a lot of his reading recommendations, especially when it comes to science fiction and fantasy. He does sometimes read business books and nonfiction and biographies and other somewhat dull things like that.
Can't be helped.
So what we're going to do today is I went on his Goodreads and looked at what the first 10 books that I had recommended to him that he actually read this year. That was a bad sentence. So what we're going to do today is I went on his Goodreads and copied down the first 10 books out of the year that he read that were my recommendations. So we're going to find out how I did. I'm going to ask him about these books and he will rate them. So first off, we have Claudius by Robert Graves, which is historical fiction. It's I guess I would call it like a fake autobiography from the point of view of the Emperor Claudius, which is basically, it's kind of a Roman soap opera, right?
Yeah, basically. I think this one, I overall enjoyed it, but it took me a long time to read, but it wasn't my favorite. I think I'd probably rate it at about a 3, I'd say.
Is this a style of book that you enjoy?
Yeah, I do like historical fiction. It was just this one felt a little bit too historical, almost. I don't know. I think it was more the timing, and it was a physical book, and I just kept coming back to it, and it wasn't as easy to stop and start as other books might.
And this was a book that I loved when I was younger. I think I read this probably in my early teens and read it quite a few times. So I was kind of on your case to read it.
Yeah, I think it was multiple times every year that we've been together that you've mentioned this book, and you brought it back when you moved here. You know, it was a whole deal.
So now we can let it rest.
Yes.
You thought it was okay.
It was fine.
So next, maybe hopefully without falling over, we talk about the whole series.
Yeah. We're talking about the whole series.
If you want. All right, so we have The Dandelion Dynasty by Ken Liu.
Yeah, okay. This book is awesome. This whole series is so awesome. I am loving it so much. Leigh got an arc for the last book,
which I haven't read yet.
But I'm about 40% of the way through, and man, this is going well. So,
and he's really bad at. He's used to me reading everything first, so
yes. He's
just like trying to figure out how much he can talk to me about it without actually saying anything, and it's kind of painful.
Yeah, it's painful for both of us. I have to say, this book, the first 2 books in the series I listened to, and the audiobooks are amazing. It did take, I don't know, maybe a third of the first book before I really got into it and understood what was kind of the flavor and point of this series. But once I got into it, I mean, I can't stop. I can't put this book down. All I want to do is finish this book and find out what comes next. So loving these books. This whole series, book after book, is 5 stars so far.
What's your favorite thing? What's your favorite thing about the series?
I think this mostly comes in the second book, but there's a little bit in the first book. But Ken Liu brings in basic science into these books and kind of talks about how it kind of shows the development of this technology in this history. So it's not our history, it's their history, but it's very interesting to see how these people would use some of our basic scientific principles. So it's really interesting.
Next, we have an audiobook, the original, which was a collaboration between Brandon Sanderson and Mary Robinette Kowal.
I really enjoyed this. I'm having trouble remembering it exactly. I generally remember, and I generally remember the premise of there being an original person, and then their double is, I think, sent to try to capture them because they committed a crime. It was very interesting. It was a nice voice. There was a nice voice to the book, the combination of both authors. I really enjoyed it. I think I would rate it at about a 4. It was, I think, novella length, right?
Yeah, sure. It was only a few hours, and it was an audiobook. It was like audiobook only.
Yeah, it was great. I definitely recommend it. It obviously didn't, I guess, make as big an impact as some other things because I'm not remembering it as much as I would have liked, but I really liked it.
All right, next, this is a whole series, which I need to film a series review of, but the Penric and Desdemona series by Lois, McMaster, Bujold.
Loved it. 5 stars.
And I should say the Vorkosigan series is something that I recommended to you and that we kind of bonded over a little bit when we first started dating. Absolutely. 1.5 million years ago.
Yeah, so I really loved this. It was a whole bunch of novellas. They are awesome. They are fun. It's very good feel type books. There are...
Do you mean feel good?
Yeah.
I get what a good feel book could be.
They're very much feel good books. It's not that there aren't dire circumstances that the characters get into, but you don't necessarily think that the character is going to die or that anything too horrible is going to happen. And the character himself, he's kind of easygoing and loves life. It's kind of nice. It's refreshing.
The next one we have kind of an interesting history with because it's the Finder Chronicles by Suzanne Palmer. Oh. And I had recommended this to you a while ago and tried to get you to read the book, and you only got like a chapter in, but then this year you read the whole series.
Yeah, I think I got like 3 chapters in.
I think you got like a chapter in.
See, this is an argument that we usually have. I think that things have happened much longer, and then you point out to me that it's only been 2 days. Okay, so when I first read this book, I think it just took me too long to get to the point that I did when I was reading it physically. I basically stopped right before it got good. And when I was listening to it as an audiobook, I was able to get into it. So then I really enjoyed it. It took so many twists and turns in that first book. I really loved it. The second book was quite different, but I ended up enjoying it. I think at first I thought that the first book was better, but the second book kind of grew on me. And the third book was pretty crazy. So the series was fun, and that was also an arc, so I got to read that early.
You've been benefiting from all my arcs.
In case you can't tell, I'm really excited that I get to read things early.
Meanwhile, I think I started getting kind of stressed by the fact that I have arcs, and I'm not sure if I want to read it early or not, but...
That's because you're supposed to do something with it. I just get to enjoy it. I didn't rate it.
Oh yeah, you did. You're right. You didn't rate it. What would you rate? Rate the whole series. And I do have a series review up of this. Everything that we're talking about that I have like a video up for, I guess I will link to down below. I'm not sure how many of those things there will be.
Quite a few. I'm just gut feeling. I'm gonna say 4. I think there were a few that I rated as 5, but averaged out to a 4. The original I rated.
Yeah.
Crazy. Yeah. Okay, we can keep going.
We're not very good at this. All right, next, see if you remember this one. I think this was a while ago. Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo.
Oh, I very much remember this book. This was a great book. It was dark. It was awesome. It was weird. I really loved this. I think I just started going back to the gym with the whole pandemic stuff going on. And I was listening to this, and it was really cool. Basically, this woman sees dead people and goes to Yale.
Yeah.
And there's like some magic involved between the fraternities and stuff like that. But this is a horrible explanation. Wonderful book, 5 stars. Definitely go read it.
Had we watched the Shadow and Bone TV show?
Yes.
Okay.
We had watched it recently, like just before I read
and
this book.
Neither of us has read any of the Grishaverse books, except I read the book of Shadow and Bone, really hated it, but we had a lot of fun with the Netflix show. Yeah,
because that was just fun. This is very different, in my opinion. It's much darker and more literary, I'd imagine.
Did you rate it?
I rate it 5 stars. I think I did, but it was fantastic.
I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go back and check your Goodreads and see if you've like completely changed everything.
Probably.
All right. Next, I told you should read Way of Shadows, which was Brent Weeks' first book, because you really enjoyed the Lightbringer series overall.
Yeah, I actually overall really enjoyed the Lightbringer series.
And full disclaimer, I never got further than Way of Shadows in the series.
Yeah, neither did I. It was fine. I mean, it's his first book. I think I saw so much growth in his writing when I was reading the Lightbringer series. Just each book just got better and better in terms of just the writing quality. So going back to his first book was a little hard. It was nice. It was fine. I don't know, like 3 generously.
So I haven't had any real
2.
fails yet.
That was close.
Oops. All right. Next, we have Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. And seeing this, I also remembered yesterday, I've now read this book twice and I haven't reviewed it yet. And then I realized it's on the Hugo list for best novel and I really need to actually film a review.
No
So I
excuses.
should have done that one of the 2 times that I already read this book.
Well, here's your official review. 5 stars, really weird book, really awesome book. This guy is kind of in this house. There are floods. It's weird memory stuff.
Cut the synopses.
I should probably cut the synopses.
I don't think anyone would have any idea what any of these books are about from your synopses.
This isn't about whether they would know what it's about. It's whether they would be intrigued. So basically, yeah, I shouldn't give the synopses. But
I'm sorry, I don't mean to give you such a hard time.
It was a really interesting book. It kind of talks about memory and time and just different identity and how that changes given different circumstances. Trippy book.
We had a good time talking about it.
Yeah, this was a book to discuss type thing, so I really enjoyed it.
Next, I feel like a little borderline counting this as a recommendation, so it's really only because I happened to read it first. I think you would have read it no matter what, but that's Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir.
Yeah, okay, I did like The Martian a lot. The second book...
The Artemis is his second
Artemis, book. Yeah, was pretty good.
I liked it.
It was fine. It wasn't as good as The Martian. Project Hail Mary was awesome. I think I'm gonna go with like 4 stars on this. As a musician, I really loved a spoiler part that has to do with music, so I won't say more than that. But I thought that was really cool, especially in the audiobook, because you actually get to hear some musical notes associated with it. Yeah, really cool. Just goes back to the style of The Martian, bringing in some science in a palatable way and kind of helping us understand the circumstances and both what could happen, what does happen, and why it happens. So really fun. Also sort of a feel-good type of book overall.
It was a feel-good end-of-the-world scenario.
Yeah, exactly. I like that synopsis.
No, I think both The Martian and this book, some people complained that the book was a little too close to The Martian.
I liked it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess he had a winning formula. He is sort of fundamentally optimistic about humanity, I think, which is sometimes nice to read.
Yeah, during a pandemic, it's very nice.
All right, our last one.
Oh, last one? Oh, you left that for last.
Yeah, so we can go out on you giving me a thumbs down.
Yeah, A Natural History of Dragons.
By Marie Brennan.
Sure. Do you really want to include that? Because that was a fail. What a slow book.
I still think...
I know that you liked it. I know that your friend liked it too. Your best friend, A, liked it. But you guys are just wrong. It was the slowest book I've read this year.
It's funny.
No. Second slowest. Oh. I just finished the slowest book ever.
Oh, yeah.
A Man for All Markets or something. Don't read it.
Don't listen to it.
Don't listen to it.
He listened on 1.25 speed, and it still had these huge pauses in the narration.
And I never speed things up. So this book, it was just slow. It just took too long to get to interesting things, and then the interesting things took like 5 minutes, and then we had more slow stuff. I kind of understand why, because it's from this lady's point of view, like looking back at her younger self, and it's before she really did all the interesting stuff about researching dragons. So to be fair, she just didn't do that much back then. I'm sure later books she does more, but it was boring. Like 2 stars.
All right. I have the feeling, I actually thought, I just finished listening to the second book recently, and I agree that, at least on audio, the first book had parts that were slow. Not all of it was slow, but there were parts that were slow.
85% was slow.
Like 5% was slow.
85.
But the second book, I really thought the second book, the pacing was better, and I really, really enjoyed it, and I have the feeling there's no way I'm going to get you to read it ever.
Never. Not happening.
All right, so 2 stars on that one?
2 stars.
All right.
Generously.
Generous. All right, so how did I do overall on those 10 books?
You're fantastic at recommending for me. I know that. I know that I can trust you. Sure, there's a dud here and there, but for the most part, it's fantastic.
Do you think
really know my style.
Do you think? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you.
No, you're fine.
Do you think A Natural History of Dread was that like the biggest bomb that I've given you?
Bomb. Yeah.
Have I given you something you hated more than that in the past?
No, I don't think so. That was definitely the biggest bomb, and it shouldn't have been. Like, the idea was good. I enjoyed parts of it. It's just it was too slow. So if it wasn't for the pacing, I don't think that it would have been such a bomb or anything like that. I'm not sure that it would have been one of my favorites. But yeah, I love your recommendations, and actually a lot of the time now I just watch your videos and you give synopses. I'm like, oh, I think I will like that, so maybe I will pick it up, even though you aren't sure if I would like it. Yeah.
All right, so those were my first 10 recommendations of the year. Maybe comment down below on, if he's right about my recommendations, or if they're all just fantastic books, and
Not all. Couple duds.
But yeah, let us know if you like this video, and if so, maybe we will bring him back in a little bit to talk about the rest of the year or some other fun topic.
Yes, and also she will do the Dandelion Dynasty stuff because she owes me some videos.
Yeah, I'll make videos about that.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell them to like and subscribe and stuff?
Yeah, please like and subscribe because it helps the algorithm and it makes her happy, and when she's happy, I'm happy. So do me a favor, like, subscribe. Put this earlier in the video. Yeah.
No, it's going to be at the end because it's embarrassing.